What's been your takeaway for the first 3 days here? So
Well, the first couple days, you know, is the best day because finally we get a chance to put pads on, and now you can execute your techniques full speed. It's hard with no shoulder pads because your shoulders and your joints and everything are exposed, so you can come off, but you can't come off full speed. So today we'll really see what we're all about because we have a chance to put pads on and execute both sides of the ball. Offense and defensive line can execute their techniques 100 miles an hour. I'll much better feel about technically how we are after practice. But in terms of everything else, the guys have come back with great attitude. They've had a lot of retention over the summer. All the stuff we did in the spring was great. They came back, putting in a lot extra time. They're real focused in the meetings, working hard on the practice field. And so, you know, I'm pleased with their effort. We're not a finished product yet. We got some work to do technically in terms of what we want to do, but as long as they're giving great effort and got the right mindset and playing with toughness, we'll get to where we need to be.
Where does Irving stand right now in his?
He's making good progress, and I talked to him. He came in and met with me the other day before we started, and he said he wants to approach this thing like a quarterback, the same type of mentality, because that's what he is. So he's got the right mindset. Like I asked him how many games he ever played at center. He's played 5 games his entire life at center, all 3 at Florida State. I mean, all 5 at Florida State. So he's never had an NFL game at center. So there's going to be some growing pains. But he's on to it. He's really starting to master the mental part of it. He's doing a great job on the field. He's adapting to the techniques because it's a completely different thing. The one thing that he'll always have to be is going to have to be a great leverage player because you don't have many 6'5" centers in the league. But he does have the ability to bend. So he's making good progress. You know, moving from tackle in college to center, playing center, I mean, he's climbing Mount Everest. And you got to do it one step at a time. And one step after the next, as long as we continue to trend in a positive direction, he'll get to where he needs to be. I got a lot of confidence in him.
Yeah, are there things he can do with the guards to help him in the early going, or is he more or less on an island?
No. The one thing that we said when we came in here, we said that everybody was going to work together. He's got 2 experienced guards playing next to him, so the communication has been really good between the whole offensive line, and everybody's communicating, everybody's talking. He makes some initial points, but there's other things that we're asking the offensive lineman in terms of recognition to help him with, and I've done that every place I've ever been. I've had an all-pro center at San Diego, but we still had other people making calls, so to help him out, to help the whole offensive line out, our system's a little bit different than it's been here in the past. We don't put everything on the center. The center directs us, and we all share responsibility to get ourselves where we need to be.
When we were looking at maybe some camp battles, I think right tackle seems to be one because you got Alvin, who was here all spring, and then Sean, who obviously wasn't able to get on the field. How do you kind of see that? I know we're only a couple of days in, but how do you kind of see that going forward?
It's hard to tell. You know, Sean's had one practice since he played at Auburn. So he's a little bit rusty right now. You know, he was a really fine player when we looked at him on tape from Auburn, and we have really high hopes for him. But he is really at the bottom of his developmental curve. And again, he's done a great job. He's picking up the offense. You know, when he was at Auburn, he had a couple pass protections and a couple runs in his system. So this NFL offense is new for him. So mentally right now, when he starts to pick this stuff up mentally, he'll be able to play faster physically. Alvin, of course, he's transitioning to a whole new system from Seattle. He made good progress in the spring. He's making good progress. I'll be anxious to see him full speed in pads today, but I anticipate that it'll be a battle today, tomorrow, a month from now, 2 months from now. It's always going to be a battle because you got 2 talented guys lining up at the same position. They're very competitive and very tough, and they want that position. So I'm anticipating that it's going to be a battle here, and it's going to be a close one, and let the best man win.
When you see a guy like Alvin, you know, you just look at his bio, and he started a few games but never been a full-time starter, and then I'm sure that's what he hopes to be. But do sometimes guys get pigeonholed as he's just kind of a 6th or 7th lineman and not a starter?
Yeah, well, I know when Russell Okung got hurt last year and he went over and filled in at left tackle, he did a pretty good job over there. I was impressed with how he played at left tackle against really good schedules. So that was the first thing that caught my attention. So even though he hasn't been a starter, he's got a lot of NFL starts under his belt, played on some. And one thing he does bring, he brings a playoff championship mentality to our room because he's been there. I mean, if you ain't been to the playoffs, if you've not won your division, if you've not played to get to the Super Bowl, and you don't know, he understands that. So I think I think that he brings that to the room too, and he brings that mentality. But he's a young player, and I think he's got an opportunity to come in and assert himself. He's been great attitude, tough guy, working really hard. But again, that's transition to right tackle in our offense. You know, he's progressing slow but surely. But again, like everybody's, it's going to be a battle. It's going to be be a lot of battles up front there.
What about Joel Bitonio? He had a great rookie year. Last year was dinged up a little bit, missed some time. What are the expectations from him? What have you seen from him on tape as you get ready for this?
Yeah, I like him. He's a tough guy, competitive guy, technically improving. Some of my techniques are different than what he's done in the past, but he's making good progress. He understands the systems. He's smart. So as an offensive lineman, if you're smart and you're tough and you got great work ethic, you can play in the NFL and you can be a successful player. I've had a lot of players in my past that maybe don't have defensive line type athleticism, but because they're a tough, hard-nosed, grinded-out guy that's smart and technically correct, you can be a really good player. Where he goes from there, it'll be more up to him. More up to him than it is up to me. I mean, I've taken guys. Took a guy that had about his same talent level at San Diego, Chris Dillman, and he ended up, Ohio guy from Truro, Ohio. He ended up being a 5-year-old pro, starting as a practice squad. So I think, whether a guy ever becomes that level, that just depends upon how he continues to progress. But I think he has all the makings of being a really quality offensive lineman in the NFL. Good, tough, hard-nosed guard.
Are you going to stick with Spencer at one spot, or do you think he's the kind of guy that you want to see in a couple different?
Move it a couple different spots. I think he has to be able to do that. Here, this is what happens when you're in the NFL. If you're not a starter in the offensive line, you can't play just one position because you're not valuable enough. Because if you're dressing 7 or 8 guys, you got to play more than one position. So if you're not a starter, you've got to play more than one position. And he's a smart guy. He's very diligent about, we did bed check the other night at 11:30. He's in his room studying. That tells you something about a guy. So he's going to have to do a couple things, and he's shown that he can do it. He played right tackle all in the spring. He's playing left tackle now.
Hal, we haven't seen it yet, but Hugh says it's going to be full speed hitting, practice, things like that. What's been your experience in terms of practices, full speed or thud, and do you like going full speed?
I like going full speed. This is how I look at it. It doesn't matter whether you're offense, defense, doesn't matter what color jersey you wear. If you're on the ground, you're the enemy. I've never seen anybody get hurt when everybody's on their feet. So if an offensive lineman falls down and another offensive lineman falls off, that's his fault. So as long as everybody stays on their feet and practices like a pro, I think full speed is the way to go. You got 2 tempos in this game. You got walkthrough tempo, which we just did. Then you got full speed tempo, whether it's an individual drill or it's a combination drill. You got to go full speed because that's how you have to play. And then it's up to the maturity of the group, the veteran players, to make sure that nobody. If I get you in a compromising position, I'm gonna pull off. If I see your knee bent back over and I can finish you and pound you, I'm not gonna do that because you're on my team. That's the maturity of playing full speed. So you can go full speed and you can really get after it if you have a real maturity about you and you understand that we're all in this thing together. But we need to go full speed. That's the only way this game is played up front.
What's your overview of Joe Thomas at this stage of his career?
I think Joe is still right where he needs to be, and I watched him a lot on tape. He's fundamentally sound. He's athletic. When you get to the stage of your career, your body just starts to break down. Year after year after year after year, and I've had older players before, and I think the most important thing with a player that's an experienced player, that's a quality player, that's a technical and a smart player, you have to make sure that you get him to 16 games ready to play. And so again, they've got a great protocol for him, when he's practicing, when he's not practicing. And what we're going to do is we're going to give him enough work so that he can play at the top of his game and no more. No diminishing returns with Joe Thomas. So you communicate with him, what reps does he need, especially when you get into the season. In the past, you got a 12-play script. Let's look at these 12 plays, okay? Meet with him. Okay, I need this play, I need this play, I need this play, this play, this time. I don't need these 3 plays. We communicate. He doesn't need some of these nakeds or something like that where he's just running for nothing. So we can communicate and get him the quality reps, but on a player like that, enough to get him ready, no diminishing returns.
How do you like him as a competitor and a leader?
He's a great competitor. He's a leader. He's a silent leader. What I really like about him is I'm over there, we're finishing up with this last drill. We ask everybody to get their own partner that they're going to work with for the rest of the season. You know who he takes as his partner? Cam Irving. And he takes Cam over there, and he's working with his hands and all that. And so he does a great job coaching and mentoring. He's working with the younger guys. He tries to use his experience to help other players, which I really apply. He's been great with me in the meeting. We've known each other since I met him when I was at the Pro Bowl, and he was at the Pro Bowl back in, I believe it was 2007. I think it was his first Pro Bowl. And I had a couple guys there, so I got a chance to meet him there. And he's just been a quality guy since there, and I see him as the same quality guy right now. He's great in the meetings, brings another coaching type attitude there. with a real humble personality. I love the guy.
Could you elaborate a little on the whole partner thing? What that entails?
Well, no, it was just when we have some downtime, like when they're doing some special teams or something. I don't want my guys sitting around on a knee. There's always something we can do, and you don't want it always to be full speed up. You know, sometimes you got to have a little downtime, like at the end of they're doing some special teams. So we do some different hand knockdown drills, some hand replacement drills for pass pro. So what I like a guy to do is to get a partner and work with that partner for the whole year, because they get a feel for each other. And so, you know, he didn't go right to Joe Bitonio, or he didn't go to Greco. He went to camp because he figures that is probably the guy that can benefit the most from his experience. And you got to take your hat off to a guy like that. He didn't go to his best buddy. He went to the guy that he thought he could help the most. That's just his personality.